So, Your Excellencies, distinguished speakers, dear participants, I would like to welcome all of you to today's special session. Are you hearing? Because I see some faces that okay. The special gender and water section, accelerating concrete actions towards gender equality in the water domain, the way forward. This session is hosted by UNESCO World Water Assessment Program, WWAP, and my name is Lauren Burja. I am the Senior Water and Gender Specialist from WWAP, and I would like to thank you all for being here, and it is a pleasure for us to welcome all these distinguished speakers and all the audience. And let me please introduce our Master of Ceremony, Ms. Enang Moma. She is a National Professional Officer at UNESCO Multi-Sectorial Regional Office in Abuja, and she will be our Master of Ceremony for today. Thank you.
Your Excellencies and very distinguished ladies and gentlemen here present today, you're all welcome to this very special session. As you may know, there is current scientific evidence showing that just one in 4 people lacks safely managed drinking water in their homes. A similar number lacks adequate access to hand hygiene facilities in their workplace, and nearly half of the world's population lacks safely managed sanitation. So despite the fact that we are all surrounded by water, as for those of us that attended the opening ceremony yesterday, the president of World Bank said that we are in a water paradox. That says we have water all around, but we do not have safely managed water. So for this data I have just highlighted to you, this data leaves out even sticker situations for the most vulnerable groups. For instance, large number of women and girls bear a huge burden in securing water and are undertaking domestic and care work while being disproportionately affected by lack of sanitation and hygiene facilities. So this in turn negatively affects their chances in adequate education and work opportunities, because they have to trek for very long distances to get water and all that. This has very far-reaching socioeconomic consequences. Furthermore, women still have a much lower representation in leadership positions, in water jobs, and in water resource management. These observations, as I have highlighted, indeed calls for a more integrated and a bold action in planning and decision-making process, where advancing gender equality must really stand central. So, to this end, the UNESCO World Water Assessment Program, working with the Multi-stakeholder Coalition, which includes our member states, institutions, international and regional organizations, academic and NGOs, is leading a global call for action for accelerating progress towards gender equality in the water domain, to building just and resilient societies. Ladies and Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this special session organized today within the margins of the 9th World Water Forum is to present the efforts, the way forward taken to close the data and knowledge gap in the water sector in pursuit of gender equality. So the session will also raise attention and reflect on the need to advance water and gender equality through concrete action. The session will also give opportunity to member states, institutions to share concrete experiences from the ground and policy development and mechanisms during this session. So we're going to have messages from the high-level country representatives, We're going to have presentation on overcoming inequalities in water. And then also we're going to have national and regional actions to activate gender equality in water. So we're going to be receiving all these kinds of messages in this session. The session promises to be a very fruitful one, and we intend to run it, very briefly. So you please cooperate with us in terms of time. So without wasting more time, I would like to start this session by calling on a welcoming address by the Assistant General of UNESCO in the person of Dr. Shamila Ney Bedwell. Her welcome address is a video, so if the video is on, please kindly play this video as she gives us her welcome address. Thank you.
Excellencies, dear participants, it gives me great pleasure today to present to you in this particular theme, which is called Accelerating Gender Equality in the Water Domain and the Way Forward. We are gathered here at the 9th World Water Forum in Dakar to accelerate universal access to water and sanitation in connection with key global commitments linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. It is no secret that we are not on track to reach several of these goals. Sadly, this includes Goal 6 on universal access to water and sanitation. This is all the more worrying in that the demand for water is rising to support our growing populations and economies. In 1.6 billion households worldwide, someone must walk to collect water. But no one is filling the gap between supply and demand for clean and sufficient water more keenly than women and girls, devoting around 200 million hours to this task each day. Women and girls are literally bearing the burden of fetching water. They are also disproportionately affected by the lack of sanitation services. This doesn't only affect their health, it also has far-reaching repercussions for their education, their training, their livelihoods, and our future. Unfortunately, the problem doesn't stop there. Despite the often intergenerational knowledge of where to find water, how to manage water, and how to safeguard it, women make up less than 17% of the total paid workforce in the water sector. They are even less visible in water-related research and decision-making positions. In a nutshell, the water sector remains a male-dominated environment. One could ask, why is this the case? The answer to this question is complex, but at its base lies persistent social norms and constructs that give rise to gender stereotyping and discrimination. It is evident that in order to advance gender equality, the 5th Sustainable Development Goal, we need to improve access to clean water and sanitation, the 6th Sustainable Development Goal. Likewise, we shall not achieve universal access to clean water and sanitation unless we advance gender equality. Achieving one goal will help to achieve the other. We must act to make the water sector more gender balanced. That means having women participating equally in its management structure. Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, there is no quick fix to the aforementioned issues. Rather, we are in for a long haul on a multitude of fronts. This will take cooperation, education and training, political will and policy reforms, the allocation of adequate and gender equal funding, but also the collection of sex disaggregated data and more. In line with this, the UNESCO World Water Assessment Programme, funded by the government of Italy, has launched a global call for action for political leaders, decision makers, and other relevant stakeholders. Our call for action aims to accelerate gender equality in the water domain through concrete recommendations for urgent action. This call for action is our call, is your call. It's an initiative supported by a multi-stakeholder coalition of international, regional organizations, national institutions, academia, NGOs, and civil society. this call for action is a call from women and girls, our future society. Since we launched this call last year, this coalition has grown to encompass over 150 members and has gained the support of 13 member states. I call upon you, all our member states, to please join the call for action to accelerate gender equality in the water domain. The initiative will not only help to establish the twin pillars of equal access to water and gender equality, it will also build bridges to foster longer-term cooperation and sustainable progress. Let me therefore express my hope that this call is heard and, more importantly, adhered to across the world and across the African continent. We can achieve our common objective of gender equality in the water domain. At this point, I have my sincere congratulations to Mrs. Michaela Mileto, who is the Director of the World Water Assessment Program, for her leadership in gender equality in the water domain, for initiating this call for action. Let's accelerate gender equality in the water domain. With all your support, we look forward to working with you, and I thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you very much. So at this point, we'd like to call on His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Slovenia, Mr. Borut Pahor, to present a high-level support for the call for the action initiative. So we're also going to play his input on video. Please, if this video is there, let's kindly play this video.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, over 2 billion people across the globe does not have access to clean drinking water every day. Groundwater, this invisible source, represents the most abundant source of fresh water on the planet. Yet, groundwater is under threat from pollution and over-extraction. Climate change severely affects its quality and quantity. To properly and effectively address this challenge, we should invest more in science, research, data, and innovation, as well as in sustainable water management. It goes without saying that in order to counter these and all other challenges of our times successfully, we need all the available talent. Women must be equally as men involved in researching, designing, budgeting, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating policies and programs in the field of water and sustainable development. Ensuring equal opportunities is thus a practical necessity. The society as a whole would only benefit from that. Thank you so much for your attention.
Okay. Can you help? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you very much to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Slovenia. At this point, I would like to call on a very distinguished and brilliant hydrology engineer who is also driving the water sector very well, in the person of His Excellency Mr. Laurent Chagba, the Minister of Hydraulics of Ivory Coast, to give us his intervention. Your Excellency, please, you have the floor.
Je voudrais remercier les organisateurs de m'associer à ce panel, mais pour illustrer ma pensée et illustrer mon expérience, j'ai fait une petite vidéo que je voudrais faire passer d'abord et en fonction de ça, les commentaires vont suivre. Donc par rapport à cette petite vidéo, vous avez vu que le travail qui est fait en Côte d'Ivoire, c'est pour adresser les problèmes d'abord de pénibilité des femmes. Vous voyez, les femmes sont obligées d'aller très loin pour prendre de l'eau. Nous essayons de résoudre ce problème en mettant de l'eau à leur disposition. Et nous faisons en sorte que les pompes à motricité humaine mises à leur disposition soient en fonctionnement permanent. Mais pour lutter contre la pénibilité, nous passons de la motricité humaine à la motricité solaire, de manière à ce que les femmes ne puissent pas être confrontées à trop de pénibilité qui handicapent leur santé. Au milieu urbain, nous faisons la même chose. Il y a des quartiers précaires dans lesquels les femmes sont obligées de faire de longues distances pour pouvoir avoir accès à l'eau potable avec des bidons. Nous faisons tout pour que les programmes puissent nous permettre d'envoyer de l'eau vers ces femmes et faire en sorte que l'eau soit dans les ménages. En plus de l'eau potable, nous avons des actions qui sont menées par le ministère de l'Assainissement et de la Salubrité pour pouvoir faire en sorte que la femme soit à l'abri, n'est-ce pas, à l'abri des problèmes d'assainissement et de salubrité. Et nous faisons en sorte que dorénavant à l'école, au niveau de l'éducation nationale, des dispositions vont être prises avec le ministère de l'Assainissement, avec le ministère de l'Éducation nationale, pour que dans tous les établissements du district d'Abidjan et ensuite dans tous les autres établissements du pays, ils puissent avoir de l'eau et des latrines. Ces latrines qui manquent dans les écoles posent de gros problèmes aux jeunes filles et nous pensons que le gouvernement, en adressant ces questions, vont permettre aux femmes, je dirais aux jeunes filles et même aux hommes, aux jeunes gens, de pouvoir se soulager par rapport aux problèmes d'assainissement et par rapport à la lutte, n'est-ce pas, de la défécation à l'air libre que le gouvernement a entamé. Bon, nous sommes en train de faire en sorte que dans le milieu, enfin dans le secteur de l'eau, nous puissions faire en sorte que le genre soit pris en compte. Et c'est pourquoi nous mettons un accent sur la formation des femmes pour qu'elles puissent prendre à bras le corps le métier de l'eau et qu'ayant les mêmes diplômes, elles puissent avoir accès à des postes de responsabilité dans notre ministère pour pouvoir travailler, apporter leur appui à bâtir la nation ivoirienne. Et nous pensons que tout cela est un programme qui est mis en œuvre après validé par le gouvernement et le ministre de l'Assainissement, le ministre de l'Hydraulique, moi-même et le ministre de l'Environnement. Nous travaillons en synergie avec le ministre des Eaux et Forêts pour que le secteur de l'eau puisse être un secteur mobilisé pour faire droit aux femmes, pour faire droit à un certain nombre de principes pour que les femmes puissent être associées suffisamment, parce que c'est elles qui font la corvée d'eau, c'est elles qui vont chercher de l'eau. Et si c'est elles qui vont chercher de l'eau, il faut les associer pour que les décisions soient prises ensemble avec elles. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this very laudable initiative that you have put in your country. It is heartwarming to know that you are making water indeed available for women, and that means that there is prospects for the girls and the young women in that country to go to school and indeed attain leadership positions. And thank you very much. We appreciate. One might really wonder every time UNESCO talks about gender and Africa, it's are the two priorities of UNESCO. And as you would also know that if you do not have gender equality, you cannot achieve sustainable development, because you will just be working with one set of your population, which is why we are encouraging and assisting our member states as much as possible to mainstream gender in all sectors, water sector not being an exception. Thank you very much, sir. So we go on to the next. I have words that the Minister of Water Resources in Nigeria is around, but he will join us later. So we will take the message from His Excellency Ms. Marina Sereni, the Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy. This will also come in video. Please, can you play? Thank you.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ministers, Dear guests, I'm honored to intervene in this special event organized by the UNESCO World Water Assessment Program in the context of the Dakar World Water Forum. Indeed, in this hour, I am traveling to Dakar for a visit that has been organized as an additional testimony of the commitment of the Italian government at the national, European and international level in this policy domain of essential importance to us all. Today's event, that coincides with the presentation of the World Water Development Report 2022, another important product of the UNESCO World Water Assessment Program that Italy is particularly proud to host, is rightly focused on gender equality in the water domain. I am glad to notice that Italy has been one of the first countries joining the call for action for accelerating gender equality in the water domain, launched by the UNESCO WWAP. It represents a unique opportunity to emphasize the link between water and women empowerment, which are two priorities of the Italian development cooperation strategy. Indeed, Italy is traditionally engaged not only in promoting international cooperation on water resources management, but also in supporting gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls in development programs. In this framework, the Italian development cooperation has been supporting developing countries in the implementation of the SDGs 6. We promote an inclusive and effective management of water resources as a key factor for sustainable development, well-being and conflict prevention. Italy recognizes the major and horizontal role of the right to water in achieving many SDGs, with particular reference to the transformation of the agricultural model and the policies on the use of water resources. Italy is also committed for the achievement of SDGs 5. In particular, gender equality is embedded in the Italian development cooperation strategy. We believe that while the fight against gender discrimination must be relentless, we must strengthen our efforts towards a full display of women's role in entrepreneurship and leadership, also in order to face the backlash in women's rights experienced during the pandemic. Actually, the Italian development cooperation action includes interventions aiming at supporting women in rural areas and in agriculture, promoting equal participation of women in decision-making processes, sustaining the private sector and increasing women's access to credit and financial services. It is, however, clear to us that without the full attainment of the human right to water and sanitation, the attainment of other rights is hardly possible. In many countries, especially in Africa, girls and women are severely affected by lack of access to adequate water and sanitation for economic, social and cultural reasons. This leads to gender barriers, thereby undermining women's potential in terms of roles, responsibilities and opportunities in society. Access to clean water and sanitation is crucial for enabling women to fully exert their rights and to achieve their aspirations, including participation in public life and decision-making, also in the water domain. Indeed, women are not sufficiently involved in the decision-making process and in the management of projects. I am thinking, for instance, at the choice of the location for standpipes, which should be made in consultation with the different categories of users and with women in particular, in order to take into account their specific needs and the distances to be covered. Overall, women should be present in the executive boards of management committees. Incentives such as quotas can be effective, but they have to be accompanied by training and awareness raising. Discussing the role of women in the water domain becomes even more relevant in light of the Dakar World Water Forum. The forum represents the most important global event on the theme of water, and indeed a unique opportunity for policymakers and representatives of the scientific world to exchange ideas and perspectives on the challenges that the international community is facing in the water domain. In this framework, a specific theme that deserves to be highlighted concerns the necessity of a gender transformative approach in the management of water resources. Thank you for your attention. I wish you a fruitful discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Assistant Minister. And we also note the laudable things that you are doing to ensure that women have access to water, and especially in this time of the pandemic. Thank you very much. And so at this point, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to also call another high-level person in the person of Mr. Pedro Rojo Agudo. He is the UN Special Rapporteur on the human rights to safe drinking water and sanitation. He will give us his thoughts on overcoming inequalities in water. Thank you. The floor is yours, sir.
Merci. Comme j'ai dit ce matin, dans un autre événement, on est au Sénégal, j'aimerais parler Wolof, mais je ne peux pas. Donc je vais faire ma présentation en français. Bon, tout d'abord, merci, c'était un grand honneur et merci pour votre attention. En l'espace de 2 semaines après, nous avons célébré et nous célébrons la journée mondiale de la femme, des femmes et la journée mondiale de l'eau aujourd'hui. Je remercie donc les organisateurs pour d'avoir centré cette session sur les femmes et les filles le jour où nous réfléchissons à la crise mondiale de l'eau. Je dis souvent la crise mondiale de l'eau dans la planète eau, hein, la planète bleue. Bon. Les femmes et les jeunes filles, comme on dit, on répète, qui, nous le savons tous, sont souvent chargées lorsque l'eau n'arrive pas dans les foyers de transporter l'eau nécessaire pour leur famille, ce qui implique non seulement des efforts et du temps qu'elles ne peuvent pas consacrer à d'autres choses, mais aussi, comme on dit toujours, le risque d'être attaqué ou même violé. Lorsque l'ONU Eau nous demande très souvent sur la manière d'accélérer, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour accélérer le rythme de réalisation de l'engagement que nous-mêmes nous avons pris envers l'ODD 6, je dis toujours la même chose. C'est peut-être trop simple, mais je dis renforçons effectivement la participation de ceux qui ont vraiment le plus grand intérêt à la réalisation de cet objectif. Et à mon avis, il n'y a aucun doute, les femmes et les filles. Parce que sont elles qui sont les plus concernées, mais aussi parce que sont elles qui font le plus d'efforts et assument le plus de responsabilités et d'engagement au quotidien sur ce front. Une autre raison fondamentale, à mon avis, c'est pour renforcer la participation des femmes et des filles dans la prise de décision et dans les projets d'eau et d'assainissement réside dans l'absolue nécessité de garantir l'hygiène menstruelle. Souvent traitée avec pudeur ou marginalisée comme un tabou dans ces services d'assainissement. Les femmes représentent, c'est évident, 50% de la population et le droit humain à l'assainissement de ce 50% de la population, santé menstruelle inclus, doit être abordé sans aucun prétexte. mais surtout leur participation et leur leadership ensemble avec les hommes sont fondamentaux, car ce sont elles qui sont en grande partie responsables des soins dont nous avons tous besoin lorsque nous sommes enfants, lorsque nous tombons malades ou lorsque nous vieillissons. Même lorsque l'eau arrive, c'est de plus en plus, heureusement, arrive au robinet dans les maisons, ce sont encore elles, les femmes, qui veillent à l'hygiène et à la santé de tous, en contrôlant sa potabilité et en faisant bouillir l'eau ou en la filtrant lorsque cette potabilité n'est pas claire ou n'est pas garantie. Nous l'avons dit souvent, si souvent, que j'avoue que je suis un peu gêné de le répéter. Mais il faut le répéter, il faut le mettre en pratique à tous les niveaux surtout. Il faut veiller à ce que les femmes des communautés démunies soient écoutées. Tout d'abord écoutées. Parfois on dit participer, tout d'abord écouter. Ça c'est déjà important. Hein? Il faut veiller à ce qu'elles participent aussi bien sûr à la conception des projets et à la prise de décision au sein des communautés. Il faut les encourager, il faut encourager à participer activement, comme cela se fait d'ailleurs de plus en plus, c'est au moins les données que je suis en train de recevoir des différents continents, dans les conseils communautaires de l'eau. Mais garantir la participation égale des femmes à tous les niveaux de l'eau et de l'assainissement, c'est important aussi dans l'administration, pas simplement dans les communautés, dans l'administration même ou dans les organisations qui promeuvent des projets d'eau et d'assainissement. Tout simplement parce que c'est sûr, elles seront certainement plus prédisposées, plus sensibles à écouter les demandes, les besoins et les propositions des femmes dans les communautés. Enfin, permettez-moi finalement de proposer une dernière ligne de travail, de réflexion sur la nécessité de promouvoir des espaces parallèles, à mon avis, pour les femmes, dans lesquels elles ressentent la confiance nécessaire pour parler, pour réfléchir ensemble et pour proposer ensemble. Le ministre l'a dit, et je pense que c'est important. Des espaces pour les femmes dans lesquels elles puissent donner forme à leurs idées et à leurs propositions qui devront finalement être soumises au processus décisionnel. Je ne veux pas dévaloriser l'importance de leur participation, bien sûr, égale dans les espaces de décision, mais plutôt que cette participation soit plus efficace. C'est ce que s'est passé, par exemple, je mets cet exemple, c'est ce qui s'est passé, par exemple, dans les négociations de paix qui ont eu lieu à La Havane sur la Colombie. Bien que la participation des femmes à la table des négociations ait finalement été obtenue très tardivement, du premier moment, il y a eu toujours une dynamique parallèle des femmes qui a suivi et nourri le processus de négociation à tout moment. Et elles ont été très efficaces. Hier encore, en visitant des communautés rurales à 100 et quelques kilomètres d'ici, de Dakar, des communautés qui se sont d'ailleurs révoltées contre la privatisation de leur système communautaire d'eau, j'ai rencontré l'organisation de femmes appelée, je vais prononcer très mal, excusez-moi, les amis sénégalais, Bagdenou Gox, quelque chose comme ça, qui opère apparemment dans tout le Sénégal et qui est officiellement reconnue par le gouvernement. Une organisation de femmes qui élit ses représentantes par quartier, par communauté, et qui interviennent avec une autorité très puissante dans les communautés lorsque des questions qui les concernent spécifiquement sont en jeu, comme les incidents de violences sexistes ou la gestion communautaire de l'eau et de l'assainissement. J'ai été impressionné, j'avoue, j'ai été impressionné par la force et l'autorité de la dame qui nous a accueillis quand on est arrivé en disant « Mes amis, je vous souhaite la bienvenue en tant que vieille lionne de la communauté. » Et elle a expliqué comment les femmes avaient été la clé de la lutte communautaire pour récupérer l'eau qui avait été privatisée grâce en grande mesure à cette organisation des femmes. Merci bien.
Thank you very much for that very valid input. You have really told us that, again, reiterate that women have a right to water, and then in overcoming this, you have also told us that women should be involved, even at project design, at all levels, and that, women organizations should also be involved, especially in negotiations. This is very important. Probably by so doing, we should be able to overcome the inequalities and water. So at this point, I would like to call on recall I told you that this session is also to look at the way forward on the call for action initiative. And so we would like to present to you this way forward on the call for action. And to do that is the Director and Coordinator, UNESCO World Water Assessment Program, in the person of Dr. Michela Mileto. She has her presentation. Oh, okay. All right. So in that case, I'm going to call on Dr. Laura Imborgia to step in that shoe and present that, make that presentation on her behalf. The floor is yours. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. So on behalf of our director from WWAP, Michela Mileto, I will do the presentation just for the sake of time. So at the end, if we want to have all our present speakers taking the floor, so just I would go to say the key aspect of this call for action that was initiated last year in a global launch. And then the next, please. Thank you. So with WWAP, together with a large working group of gender experts, we conducted an analysis of the situation of women and gender equality in many areas of water resource management. So I don't mean that everybody reads, but the group was very broad, from different organizations, academia, UN agencies, NGOs, women's associations, and what we could see after this deep analysis is what we already know, that gender equality in water is unsatisfactorily off track. So with this group and with different instances of discussions, what we decided is to launch this global initiative, a call for action to accelerate gender equality in the water domain. And we prepared two important documents as background. One is Taking Stock, where we published the analysis that is available on our website, and also a position paper that was discussed by the different members of the group, and also of this created multi-stakeholder coalition that we bring together. We invited member states, UN agencies, different type of stakeholders to join and to come together to work with this goal of doing, in particular, concrete advances, concrete actions towards gender equality. And now we are presenting it for Africa with all of you together. Also, I want to invite to read this. It's a position paper. It's also on our website, and it contains the key aspects and the key recommendations that all the members have proposed, that is to act on gender equal funding, prioritize the collection of sexist aggregated data, narrow this gap that we currently have between policy and practice, so to see in concrete actions what we want to achieve. Foster women's leadership, we consider this a key aspect, and also work on countering traditional stereotypes and social norms that are in contra of these advances in gender equality. So this multi-stakeholder coalition has so far more than 140 individual members from different institutions, organizations, 13 member states, regional bodies that have joined. And of course, today we wanted to invite all of you to also join, come together, and support this call for action. So in the next panel, we wanted to invite persons who has really experience on the ground and to share with us some of these learnings, opportunities, and also challenges towards this work of accelerating gender equality. So I would like to thank our excellencies and distinguished speakers here in the panel and invite Ms. Lesha, Ms. Oriana, and Ms. Maja to the floor and to give your messages. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to start from you, please, to give your message. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Lesha Whitmer, and I represent an organization called Women for Water Partnership. And in that name is already part of the solution. Because why did we start a partnership of women's organizations? Is to actually get a collective voice of women, different expertise of women, and make that expertise more and more visible. Because part of what happens is that although we have a very nice policy, then the program and the project manager will tell us, but I don't know these women. I don't know what they know. I can't find them. So one of the things that we do is to actually make sure that the program manager, the local project manager, the policy people in the local government, that they actually know who these women are. So one of them is create visibility. That nobody can keep saying we don't know who they are and where they are. I don't know if you saw the brochure of the World Water Forum. If you did, and you had a good look, you saw something really funny. There were only men in all the pictures. Now, I know the number of women here is still slightly lower than that of the men, but I would not say that the women are not visible here. I have seen numerous young, very highly educated young women here. I know what they can do. And then the people in charge tell us, we don't know who they are. We don't hire them because we don't know what their diploma is worth. So again, creating visibility, whether it's in the local government, whether it's in a local NGO, whether it's in a big company or a small company, the first step is look at all these women that have the knowledge, hire them, support them, and use their knowledge. That's one of the things we do. The second one, and this microphone is doing funny things with my ears, is vocational training. Pedro, I appreciate your comment. But on the other hand, there are loads and loads of women who have a lot of local, both new and traditional knowledge when it comes to water management. Now, the reason they're not listened to is because they don't have this little paper saying you have a diploma in water management. But life has taught them water management. So one of the things we also do as an organization through our members is talk to vocational training institutes and say, we know these women know how to do it. Now you go and listen to them, do an assessment, and give them a certificate. They call it early acquired competences, which is not through the formal education system, but it's acknowledging what people, in this case the women, have already learned in practice, and give it the piece of paper that makes them suddenly a reliable partner. So that's the second thing we do on the ground. The third one is we give women visibility by helping them with their own projects. And I'll give you one example and then I'll stop. There is a community of women in the Kilimanjaro, so one of the highest but also not that accessible areas in the world. They had a problem with the drinking water quality. So it's not just about getting the amount of water, but also about the quality of the water. There's no point in getting the water and then the water makes them ill, right? We keep forgetting that. These women realized that. It took them 3 years to negotiate with the engineers that they got the system they thought was appropriate for their surroundings and their work. But it did something else. First of all, the community realized that these women had actually solved a problem with drinking water and health issues they had had for years. The women's organization solved the problem when nobody else was listening. Because they solved it, suddenly the district in charge of water resources thought, okay, if they can do it, then maybe we should be able to do it as well. So they started involving the women. So here it was almost the reverse. First they did the project, and they did it so well that the district and the politicians realized they needed them in the district council, that they needed them in the management system, because they were doing a better job than their male colleagues. 3 examples where a call for gender equality is actually translated in action on the ground. And there's much more we can do, and organizations like mine are happy to support, happy to connect, and give our women a voice, because they really know what they're talking about. Thank you very much, Chair.
Very much, please clap for her. Yeah, this is women supporting women, and that is very good. That is what we want. Thank you. The next speaker, but please just keep it very brief, 2 minutes each, please, because we had to factor this into the agenda. Thank you. 2 minutes. Yeah, keep it brief, yes. 2 minutes.
I'll keep it brief. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Oriana Romano, and I'm the head of the OECD Water Governance Program. The OECD is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So as an economic organization, in my 2 minutes, I will give you some numbers. And these are part of a research project on women in water decision making that actually we have started with Lesha, the Women for Water Partnership and GIZ. So 3 brief messages. The first message is that when women take charge, they make the difference. So what we have seen through this literature review and preliminary research is that in the public and also in the private sector, when women are in charge of water, they make the difference in terms of impact on public health, on trust, and on the reduction of inequality. At the moment, from data of 2019 actually, 40% of ministries of environment and UN focal point at the high level position were taken by women with this kind of impact. And we had impact, for example, in terms of the activities that many ministers, women, had been taken into account for a wide range of water-related issues, both on access to water and sanitation and water resources management. That was the case of Chile, that was the case of France, for example. In the private sector, when 20% of the senior management is made by women, and they arrive to get up to more than 40% in addition in terms of financing result. And that is not only one thing. They increase trust, they increase the reputation of the private company where they work. And this year, 5 of the major utilities, including Suez, Veolia, American Water, they are led by women. The second message is that nevertheless, we are not that yet. In fact, when we look at who is actually employed in this, for example, a water utility, is 1 in 5 is woman. And we have also to see that they earn up to 30% less than men. And if we look at the public sector, if we look at the ministries, there are almost no ministers of finance that are women. So we are really far from reaching the target in ministries that can make a change when it comes to water policies and implementation. And I conclude by saying that there is no recipe for success, of course, but when I was at COP26, I heard Nancy Pelosi saying, when women succeed, the world succeed. And that stayed in my mind because it's something that we can, as an economic organization, we need to find evidence to make this happen. And so perhaps just 3 things. One is about changing the framework, avoiding the stereotypes, the bias, making sure that the regulation is in favor of gender balance and neutrality. The second is about funding to address the gender justice. And the third is about data, disaggregated data by gender, and WWAP is working a lot on this issue, and we hope that our collaboration can continue in the future. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the speech. And because she's a woman, she spoke for 2 minutes. Yeah. So the next, yes.
So my name is Maha Salehi, and today I'm going to present MIDIWAT. In my short presentation, I'm presenting 3 points. First, what is MIDIWAT? And second, some concrete achievements which we have made since the born of this network. And third is some key messages. So just in short, MIDIWAT actually was born 5 years ago during the World Water Day. It was in Marseille, in France, during the youth innovating with wastewater for a sustainable Mediterranean with the CMI, Center for Mediterranean Integration. It is led by Mediterranean youth from all over the Mediterranean with the support of the CMI. And today we're about 200 members. We represent water professionals, researchers, entrepreneurs, people who work in relation to the water sector. Next. So our main objectives are first to connect and engage Mediterranean youth from different disciplines working on water as part of the CMI water strategy. And second, to become a knowledge-based platform which creates and exchanges best practices and opportunities for Mediterranean youth. So I think one of the added value of our network is not that we're just there to connect and just to add the contacts, but rather we generate the knowledge. We collaborate on co-production of different reports. And finally, our objective is to create cross-linkages between MIDIWAT and key decision makers in the region. So some of the concrete achievements which we have actually made since 2017. The first one is the knowledge exchange and co-production. So we have published 10 working papers in relation to the UN World Water Reports. So 5 were on water and migration, and the other 5 were on water and climate change. This was done in coordination with the CMI, and so we were having members from the network who were authoring the paper, and at the same time we had an expert that was supervising the working papers. We have also made a series of webinars where we invited an expert, a water expert, and we invited the members of the network to discuss with him or her. Second, when it comes to policy, which is one of the key activities of our network, because we want to be considered as policymakers, as part of the policymakers. So we have published different policy briefs on different water-related thematics. Also, we participated at different policy-making conferences and forums with high-level stakeholders, like mid 5+5 dialogue process, and like today as well. Also, we have had a partnership with the North African Policy Initiative to strengthen advocacy and policy efforts of MIDIWAT members. Other achievements include the entrepreneurship, because we would like to focus on the topic of job creation in the water sector, and to make it sustainably. So we have had an entrepreneurship boot camp, which was based on capacity building activities, and this was in the support of CMI and SUAS. And we have had out of this boot camp 3 startups which have received funding, and now they're continuing to either call for funds or continuing to the market directly. Then we have also had some collaborations on projects. One of them was on water security and migration nexus in North Africa, precisely in Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. So to see how what is the linkage between water and migration, and this was funded or supported by CMI as well as DFID. And we have also had some collaborative projects among the network members in the framework of PRIMA projects. Finally, as part of the achievements, we have had a collaboration with other youth organizations, so that we collaborate and imply the impact not only in the Mediterranean region but also beyond. And among them were also the World Youth Parliament for Water. Finally, to conclude, I would like to just highlight 3 key messages. As a woman, but also as a youth professional. And these are, first, youth are enablers for water solution in the Mediterranean region. Sometimes we perceive youth as only beneficiaries and those who need support, and we do. But also I think it's very important to consider us as solution enablers, because we are doing so. I have just mentioned some of the examples in our network, but this is also outside the network. So whether it is with research or projects or the collaboration with different actors. And to enable us more, I would say that we need more capacity building and job creation through funding, green investments, research, and networking. The second key message is that youth shall be considered as concrete policymakers of today and not of tomorrow. Because usually also I get these messages like, you are the leaders of tomorrow and tomorrow you're going to lead, but no, it's not the case. I mean, we need to be considered as the policymakers of today, because especially in the Mediterranean region, it's a young region, just like Africa, and so they need to be included concretely in the policy making. And this can be done through taking their views into consideration, like throughout the policy-making process, and to recognize the gender dimension of this topic, because as has presented by the different speakers, the women play a different role in the water sector. And finally, the third key message is that we would like to highlight that the collaboration between the two rivers of the Mediterranean around water is highly needed. And water can be one of the subjects of hydrodiplomacy and in partnerships among the different stakeholders. Thank you.
Speakers that are really contagious motivation, and these initiatives are the kind of experiences that we wanted to share and we want to continue collecting and highlighting. Thank you very much. I will now finally call to this, here to the floor to Dr. Omogbemi Omoluju Jaja. He is the Director of Regional Center for Integrated River Basin Management, the National Water Resources Institute for Kaduna in Nigeria. Okay, so Dr. Jaya, he will give us some final thoughts for the closure of the session. Thank you.
The organizers of this program, Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, I think I am very qualified to make these few closing remarks because I am born by a woman, my wife is a woman, and my two children, my only two children are women, and so I'm surrounded by women, and I know how much they need water. If we look at the problem of gender in water, it starts from the inception where women believe that the issue of engineering, earth sciences, which have direct relationship with water, they have no business with it. They want to study finance, they want to study microbiology, they want to study, but not engineering. I could remember that in my undergraduate days, we were 49 in the class in geology, no lady. So at this crude favor towards gender of men is at the beginning. So we need advocacy, we need sensitization. The women are ready now to take the center stage in management of water for us to sustainably develop. So I will say that we need to seriously see to it that at even technical managerial levels, women are given the right place, aside from the community level, because we have spoken about the design, execution, and management of water schemes, that women have to play key roles because they are the main users as well as children. So on this note, I want to say that this gathering is quite apt to see to it that we give gender, the right consideration that it requires in the management of our water schemes, so that we can sustainably develop. There's no doubt the world has had it enough that we don't need to screw the management of water towards men alone, but has to be gender, there must be gender balance at all levels, in all ramifications. So I want to thank the organizers and thank everyone for coming for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Soy Silvia Chávez, responsable de la cooperación internacional de la Comisión Nacional del Agua, CONAGUA, institución responsable de la administración de los recursos hídricos en México. Agradezco la oportunidad de presentarles algunas de las acciones que la CONAGUA, encabezada por el ingeniero Germán Martínez Santoyo, está llevando a cabo con el propósito de acelerar la igualdad de género en el sector. Para ello, me acompañan dos mujeres responsables de implementar los programas federales de agua y saneamiento y la atención y fortalecimiento de la organización comunitaria en México.
Vamos a hablar del papel tan importante que tienen las mujeres rurales en el cuidado y abastecimiento del agua, principalmente en aquellas comunidades marginadas e indígenas. En México, se estima que utilizan el 64% de su tiempo en el acarreo y almacenamiento del agua en el hogar, situación que limita su acceso a otros derechos y pone en riesgo su seguridad. Además de que ello no se traduce en una mayor participación en la toma de decisiones para la gestión del recurso. Ante esta situación, México, a través de la CONAGUA, impulsa diversas acciones dirigidas para acelerar la igualdad de género en el ámbito del agua. Desde el año 2020, con la incorporación de la perspectiva de género a la normatividad bajo la que opera el Programa de Agua Potable, Drenaje y Tratamiento, el PROAGUA, se han obtenido estos resultados. Por ejemplo, en el año 2021 se atendieron un total de 95.285 mujeres de localidades rurales.
Hemos promovido la participación de las mujeres dentro de los comités de Contraloría Social y en los órganos de administración de los comités que dan servicio de agua potable, drenaje y saneamiento en comunidades rurales. Adicionalmente, como una acción afirmativa, se les asigna un 10% más de recursos federales a aquellos comités de agua cuya participación de las mujeres sea mayor del 50%. Tan solo en el año 2021 se contabilizaron 333 organizaciones comunitarias con un total de 1.805 integrantes, de las cuales el 43% fueron mujeres. De igual forma, se incentivan actividades de atención social en donde se incluye la realización de diagnósticos participativos con enfoque de género y la capacitación a organizaciones comunitarias y población beneficiaria en diversos temas técnicos, sociales, además del cumplimiento del derecho humano al agua y al saneamiento, y en la inclusión de la perspectiva de género en la gestión comunitaria del agua. Con estas actividades se busca la implementación de estrategias culturalmente adaptadas para impulsar la participación activa de la población femenina en las decisiones relacionadas con el agua en todo el país. Con esto se puede contribuir a generar un cambio sociocultural inclusivo de las mujeres en las políticas en torno al agua.
Me gustaría concluir la participación de México resaltando que el enfoque de género requiere de la comprensión de las relaciones sociales y de las dinámicas que se dan en la gestión del recurso, con el fin de desarrollar estrategias para adaptar nuestras políticas públicas y programas nacionales. La equidad de género en el agua es un reflejo de nuestras sociedades. Como lo hemos visto, datos recientes demuestran que una gestión efectiva, eficiente y equitativa de los recursos hídricos solo es posible cuando mujeres y hombres participan en condiciones de igualdad en su gestión y de los beneficios de los servicios relacionados. La Comisión Nacional del Agua en México les invita a sumarse a las actividades del llamado a la acción del WWAP y a continuar buscando, desde nuestros ámbitos de competencia y responsabilidades, las mejores estrategias para equilibrar la balanza en la gestión sostenible del agua. Muchas gracias.